this live for you guys. So you'll come in as we're going here, obviously, but we'll get started. First thing is first, got to check our fuel levels here. It's going to be a little tricky doing everything one-handed, but we'll manage. So what we're going to do today is some touch and goes. So first thing you want to do, I always want the fuel at the tabs. Fuel at the tabs in this airplane is 18 gallons. So here we have our very advanced tester here. So we'll test and we'll see how much we got. It's showing about 19. So we're good. And we've got blue fuel, which is what we want, avgas. So we'll put that back on. So I have already checked the tanks, but I'm going to do it again here for demo purposes. So again, you want to look, you can't really see, but I want to make sure we have blue fuel. It is just over the tab, so we'll see what we get here. 20 gallons, good to go. All right, so fuel is basically level between the tanks, and we want to know that because we've got to go, once we get rolling here, it's when you start the engine, you want the fuel selector in the lowest tank. So the first thing I'm going to do is check the lights. So in order to check the lights, what we're going to do, and you really only need to check the lights for IFR, but I always do a full IFR pre-flight for the airplane. So we're gonna this is quite a big cockpit compared to the 150. So we're gonna go master and battery switches on, and we're gonna go all our lights here. And then the other thing we're gonna do is we'll set the flaps, and I'll show you why we do that in a second here. So let's get out, and then we'll do a quick walk around and check all the lights. So and this is why we do it. Tell me that light's not working, or I didn't flip the switch on. I didn't flip the switch on. Okay. So, pilot incompetence 101 here. Let me make sure. Oh, there we go. I didn't roll the nav lights on. So now let's go check our lights. I'll be careful getting off this thing with only one hand. All right, so nav and strobe are working there. The LED landing light there is working. LED landing light there is working. Come over here and we'll check this is the stall warning horn. You can see, I don't know if you can see that little red light on the panel there. That comes on when I activate that. This light is working. These are working. And we'll go up top here. There we go. That's looking beautiful. So now let's get back on board here, and we'll turn all the lights off. All right. So lights all coming off. Master and battery switches coming off. That turned the G5s on. All right, so flaps are set. So now, trying to get out here without killing ourselves. And let's see here. Okay, so first things first, want to make sure the connectors are good on the flaps. We want to make sure the flap is solid. You want to make sure it's not wiggling around or anything. That connector looks good. And then I don't think you can see them. But underneath, there's some connectors right here. Make sure those are good. You can kind of see it right under here. Hey, Tom, how you doing? And then just bring this up. So these are the flap connectors. You just want to make sure that there's 3 of them. Just want to make sure they're all solid, and they are. And then we're going to check these little tabs right here. These little tabs with a pin through them holding the ailerons on. You can see that pin right there. It's bent. I don't think you can see it, but it's kind of hooked like this on the end, so it doesn't slide out either way. There's another one here. Make sure that's good. And then what I do, so I do flight controls free and correct several times before I fly. One of the times I do them is right now. And what I do is I'll move this flap up, or this aileron up rather, make sure the one on the other side moved in the opposite direction, and make sure the yoke is turned towards me. So the way I remember is up towards me, moving in opposite directions. And there's a Cessna citation right there. So I'll just make sure that they're moving freely and that there's no like funny sounds, there's no like rubbing or squeaking sounds, and I can see the yoke moving in the proper way, so we're good there. I know these lights are good. So now what I'm gonna do is come down here. And what I'm looking for down here is a couple things. I wanna make sure that all 3 tires are properly inflated, and they are. I wanna make sure I don't see anything leaking or dripping. I wanna make sure I don't see any damage to the underside of the flaps or the underside of the wing. And everything looks pretty good from here. So now I'm gonna get this, which is my fuel strainer. And we're gonna come over here and we make sure the fuel is blue, which we've already done. And now this is gonna be tricky one-handed, but we're gonna get under here and get some fuel. And you can see that white sticker on there, and I'll show you what that's for here in a second. So you're gonna get a good amount of fuel from that drain right there. And then we'll come up here, and I hold it this way. So I'm looking against that drain, or against that, that white sticker, the back of it. So what I'm looking for is to see if there's any water on top of the fuel, because if there's any water in the fuel, it's gonna be on top of this fuel sample, and it's blue. I don't see any bugs in it, which is good. And there's no water. So we'll flip it over to the vented side here, and we'll pour it right back in. Used to be a day, we'll pour most of it right back in anyway. Used to be a day back in the 80s when I first started, when I was a kid and my dad was flying, people would take those fuel samples and just chuck them on the ground. And now that would obviously not be accepted. But people used to just take them and chuck them on the ground. One thing I forgot to check. So the fuel tanks have the fuel cap here has vents underneath right here. And it's got this little plastic, this little rubber seal, and there's vents underneath there. So you want to make sure that the vents are clear. And there's another vent down here, and you want to make sure that's clear. And the reason is because as the fuel goes out of the tank, you have to make sure that you can get oxygen into the tank to replace it. You want to make sure that it doesn't get vacuum locked. Now, in some Cherokees, you can pop these open and flip the cowling right up and look inside the engine. And I really prefer that kind of style setup. But you can't do it with this airplane. The only thing we can do with this airplane is check the oil. You flip this open. And so make sure. So you're not gonna be able to see it very well, but 8 quarts is what it's technically supposed to have. But if you fill it to 8 quarts, all it does is spit the oil out. It'll spit out about 1.5 quarts. So if you've got 6, you're good to go. So you just want to tighten that a little bit. You don't want to over tighten it. otherwise you won't be able to get it back off later. And the other, so now we want to check these little things here, make sure that these tabs, if you can see them, are underneath or hooked so that this is closed well and it's not going to pop open. So now what I'm going to do, I want to make sure that the strut is extended properly. And now I'm going to look at the struts on the other two wheels and make sure those struts are they're even left and right. And this one looks like it's extended properly. You've got the light that I've already checked. Now we're going to check the prop for any nicks or any damage. Feels good. Want to look at all of the, want to look at the spinner, make sure there's nothing cracked on the spinner. I've had that happen before. And if you get that, you can't go flying. So we're also going to look real quick. I don't know if you can see it right in here. There's a belt for the prop. You want to make sure the belt looks good, and it does. It's summer, so we want to make sure the oil plate is off, and it is. And then we're going to look here at the belt again from this side. Belt looks good from this side. Then we're going to come down here. That's the starter right in there. You can't really see it. You guys can't. I can. Trying to make sure the starter looks good. And it's connected to the, well, it's grooved to the prop. So make sure that these are hooked properly, and they are. Make sure that these are closed, and then we're going to check the fuel on this side. So first things first, let's make sure that the vents are clear, and they are. The fuel is blue, we know that, we've checked it. And there's the other vent, by the way. It's kind of hard to find it with the camera. There's the other vent. Make sure that's good. And we'll come down here, get some fuel from this side. And this is awkward to do with one hand. You really got to push to get that vent open, or to get that drain open. And then again, looking for water on top of the fuel. I don't see any. I don't see any bugs. So that's looking good. So again, the screen side, we'll just pour that in. Now, over here is another drain. There's 3 drains on this plane. 3 fuel drains. So we drain that. Drains very slowly because it's at an angle over here. So we drain this. Make sure we get enough fuel that we can see. Okay. And one of the things about doing a pre-flight is if you don't get dirty, you didn't do it right. So there's no water there, no bugs, we're looking good. So pour that back in there. And we'll go here, close that. All right, so there's just making sure there's nothing leaking underneath the engine cowling there. So now, this I will never forget in my life because I did once, and it came off as we were taking off. And when we were taking off, the airspeed indicator didn't start indicating because the pitot tube cover was on. And at about 50 feet AGL, it flew off, and then it started indicating. It was really kind of awkward. But anyway, I've told that story before, but there's that's the pitot tube. Here's the drain hole cover down here at the bottom. And then at the back is the vent, or the static pressure, rather. So I know that light is working. I know this light is working. So now I'm going to do the same thing here that I did on the other side, which is I want to see that all three tires are properly inflated, and they are. I want to make sure that I don't see anything leaking. I want to make sure that there's no damage to the underside of the wings. There's no damage to the flaps. There's no damage to the ailerons. Wing looks good. Everything looks good. Then once again, I'm going to check my flight controls up towards me, opposite directions. And now I'm going to see, ow, just caught my finger in there. Now I'm just going to move it up and down. I'm just listening for any kind of weird sounds. So make sure it's smooth, moving in opposite directions. We're good. And then again, we're going to check these. If I told you that, you wouldn't believe me. If I told you that, you wouldn't believe me. I have the best deal going. So there's again the tabs. That's good. Here's the tab here. And those are both good. Take a look at this. These are the flaps. Hold the flaps on. That's on there nice and solid. Make sure that this is looking good. Hey, Lumpy, what's going on? And we'll go under here and we'll check these, make sure these are good. And these are both good. You can sort of see. So, we'll get this. And then what I'm gonna do, and check these tabs. This is a stabulator, not an elevator. And it's a stabulator because it moves up and down, and it has the trim tab here off the back. This is a huge elevator. It's a huge elevator for a small airplane. Gives you really good control. They only made this airplane 1 year, 1973. It was the Cherokee Challenger. Those are good, that's good. Those are good. Those are good. And now again, I'm gonna pull this up and the elevator, the yoke should come back towards me, and I'm gonna move it up and down. Watch the trim tab move. Just listening for any funky sounds, any rubbing, any like catching sounds. And there's one thing that I need to do that I forgot. Come over here and get me flashlight. Well, I didn't forget, I just didn't have the proper equipment. There's me flashlight. So, gotta look inside the elevator housing here. And you can see right here, first of all, you can see that the rudder is a little bit offset, right? So you can see this is kind of the midpoint, right? And it's offset a little bit to the right. And the reason for that is to account for P factor, which is the engine rotating, the prop rather rotating clockwise, and the prop washer along the plane. So the next thing we're gonna look at is, which I don't think you're gonna be able to, well, maybe you can see it. So there's cables in here and screws that attach the elevator to the yoke. And we wanna make sure that everything is connected, all the screws look good. Wanna make sure the cable looks good and everything looks fine, because we would really hate to have that not work. That would be unfortunate. So basically now we're done with the pre-flight, the physical pre-flight anyway. And I know the airplane is safe for flight. I know that the flight controls are free and correct. And we'll hop in here real quick, put the flaps up. Just gonna show you real quick the Avionics. I did this a week ago, but this is last VOR check. Nah, that's not true. So there are the G5s. There's the GTN 750. And yeah. So this is what we got here. So I'm gonna turn all this off now. So I don't wanna run the battery. But things I'm thinking about today. So I went flying for the first time this year last weekend. Was it last weekend or 2 weeks ago? Last weekend. I forgot to close this window prior to takeoff, which was Something I hope not to repeat. The other thing is that when I was taxiing, when I was ready for departure, I called Tower and requested departure, but I addressed them as ground. So I want to make sure my radio comms are nice and clean. So what I'm going to do now is set up all my junk, meaning my iPad, probably the GoPro. And then what I do is, I'll pull the plane out onto the ramp here, and I'll do what I call a suicide prevention check, which is because when you're doing a pre-flight, you're like right up close to the airplane. And sometimes you can miss the forest for the trees. So there might be something very, very obvious that's wrong with the plane that you don't realize from looking at it from 1.5 feet away, right? So what I'll do, I get back to a distance of about like this, out here on the ramp in the sun, and then I'll just walk around the plane 360 degrees and just make sure there's nothing hanging down, make sure there's nothing like, obviously falling off or loose or, just anything weird. And you just want to make one last big check. I'm not a terribly huge fan of taking the, hey, Buckman, what's going on? Buckman, I apologize that we're not doing the group flight today. I was explaining earlier, I had a choice to either come out and fly this plane or do the group flight, and I chose to come fly this plane, so I'm sorry, brother. But because I'm doing some safety pilot stuff for a guy this week who's doing some instrument currency stuff, and I just want to make sure I'm up to snuff on my landings just in case. But I was saying, like, I'm not a huge fan of taking the pitot tube cover off early on during the pre-flight, because the whole point of the cover is to make sure nothing gets in the pitot tube, right? So you can make sure there's no bugs or anything in there. Hey, Sean, what's going on? Hey, I appreciate it, Buckman. And but anyway, I'd rather take it off and take a chance with something else than forget to take it off. So that's the Cherokee. That's a pre-flight. It took about 20 minutes. Probably took a little bit more time than it would have taken if I wasn't filming it. But I mean, literally it took, maybe a minute or two, no big deal. But so that's a pre-flight. And kind of my philosophy of pre-flights is I'm looking for a reason not to fly. I don't come to the plane and think to myself, okay, I'm going flying today. I come to the plane and I start my walk around and looking around. Hey, Brian, how are you? I come to the plane and I do my inspection, and I'm looking for a reason not to fly. So my basic philosophy is this airplane is trying to kill me today, and I have to try to figure out why or how. It's kind of a morbid way of looking at it, but there have been, one of the most, famous F-16 pilots in history died because he didn't do a good pre-flight. And it's just, it's one of those things where it's routine, it's monotonous, but you've got to do it the same way every time and do it well. I just saw the message about that tropical storm. I didn't see, it kind of faded before I could read it. But, so, it's funny because I think about the real plane when I'm simming, and I think about real flying when I'm simming, but it really is different. It really is, because your butt is on the line out here, and it's, and for me, real flying is safety, 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 so, hey, what's going on, Roy? How are you? So anyway, I'm going to film these touch and goes. I'll probably put the video up narrated like I did the last time without the audio cable. I'm getting a new audio cable. I think it comes on Tuesday. So I'll be, yeah, JD, 100%. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think that's a spectacular, that's one of the things that maybe I'll talk about in a video. That's one of the things that sim pilots, man, don't get, the way my primary instructor put it was, mind thy airspeed. Yeah, I mean, there's so many easy ways to buy it in one of these things. You gotta you got to have your head about you, So anyway, I'm gonna go fly this. I am at Kilo Romeo Mike Echo in Griffiths Airfield in Rome, New York. If you guys want to watch the on Flight Aware or Flight Radar 24, whatever, I'll be airborne in probably 15 minutes, and just gonna do a couple hops around the patch today, just to my landings were good last week, and they were 3 crosswind landings, and they were really comfortable. Yeah, hey, thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. And Brian, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's like you look at this thing, and it doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. And my car has way more horsepower than this airplane. I mean, my car has 330 horsepower. This thing has 180, and this thing will fly. It's bizarre, right? But I'm just looking at the windsock right now. Winds are probably 7-8 knots at like 20 degrees off the runway. So I wish I could, Roy, but I can't, unfortunately. But I am gonna film this, and I'll upload the video later. It'll probably be up tomorrow. But anyway, I'm getting a new audio cable the Tuesday for the GoPro, and then I should really have good audio and be able to show you guys that. So there we are. That's how I pre-flight this airplane, and a lot of it is stuff that a lot of it is standard stuff from the POH, the Pilot's Operating Handbook, but a lot of it is also stuff that I've picked up from other pilots over the years, things that people do that I didn't do. And basically what I do is I just keep incorporating new things into, hey, Craig, I incorporate, anytime I learn something that somebody else is doing on a pre-flight that I'm not doing, I'll include that in my pre-flight because, like I said, I'm never in a hurry to get airborne. One of the greatest sayings in aviation: pilots who are in a hurry are in a hurry to die. So you take your time, do it the right way every time, and you can't eliminate all risk, obviously, but you want to make sure that when you leave the ground, you've got an airworthy plane. So I'm going to leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned some things from aviation. I'm sure some people are probably going to point out some things I forgot, which is fantastic because maybe I'll learn something new. And I'm going to leave it at that, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hey, schöne Grüße aus New York. Ich wünsche dir einen schönen Tag. Yeah, man, Roy, there's so many ways to do it. There's so many ways to do it wrong. But hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. I'm going to go flying, and we'll talk soon, guys. Take care.